The government is responding to the impact of the unjust U.S. tariffs with multiple tools.
And then ultimately, what does that mean for the producers making all of this stuff that us consumers buy every single day? Well, it will have an impact ultimately. Cars and trucks, home appliances, machinery, airplanes, building materials that we use to build homes, and food and beverage cans.
When was the last time you heard someone proudly say, "Made in the USA"? There was a time when that label opened doors around the world. It meant quality, it meant trust, it meant America. But now it's starting to look more like an outdated sticker collecting dust on the shelf. Those massive international orders that used to pour into American factories, they're quietly being rerouted. And somewhere out there, a factory worker in Michigan, a trucker in Ohio, or a small packaging business owner in Pennsylvania just got the same chilling message: your order has moved to Canada. Canada didn't make noise. They didn't steal the spotlight. They simply earned something America is slowly losing trust. And when the world stops buying American-made goods, this isn't just a problem for Washington, D.C. It's a problem for every American household. It's your job, your paycheck, your future. Why is Canada replacing the U.S. in global markets? Mornings at the Port of Vancouver don't look the same anymore. Gone are the long lines of trucks waiting to cross into the U.S. In their place, shipping containers packed with liquefied natural gas, certified lumber, organic wheat, and hydroelectric equipment, labeled Made in Canada, bound for Tokyo, Seoul, and Hamburg. Since mid-June 2025, Canada's LNG export project, now in its first phase, has begun shipping 14 million tons of gas annually via the Coastal GasLink pipeline, which runs straight from Alberta to Vancouver's deepwater port. The supply chain is seamless, cutting out middlemen, but the real kicker, AECO gas prices are nearly 0.71 cheaper per MMBtu than the US benchmark at Henry Hub. So it's no surprise that giants like Shell Mitsubishi and Petronas are locking in long-term deals with Canada, because in a world craving certainty, Canada delivers. And the US still waiting, but it's not just gas. Canada is exporting trust through FSC-certified lumber organic ag products like wheat peas and cheese and clean hydropower from Quebec and Ontario. These aren't just commodities, they're stories of sustainability, transparency, and long-term value. In a global market where contracts last year's, not shipments, those stories matter more than ever. While Canada quietly gains market share, the fallout is visible across the US. In Pennsylvania, a food packaging worker says we used to run 3 shifts. Now it's just 1. Our buyers switched to British Columbia for reliability. In Michigan, cross-border truckers are losing routes because natural gas isn't flowing south anymore. And in Ohio, a packaging plant has cut night shifts and left workers unpaid. If you're an American worker, this isn't just a market trend. It's your paycheck bleeding out one day at a time. So why is Canada pulling ahead for supply chain stability and better logistics? Vancouver's deepwater port can handle larger vessels, and the direct pipeline from Alberta skips Gulf Coast bottlenecks and hurricane risks, something Houston still struggles with. Second, Canada sells a powerful brand, clean green and accountable. Their gas comes with climate commitments. Their wood and crops are certified organic, GMO-free, and traceable. To international buyers, it's peace of mind on a label. Third, Canada offers consistent policies. No sudden tariffs. No overnight rule changes. One global trader put it simply, you don't expect surprises with Canada. If this trend continues, the outcome won't just be fewer hours, it'll be full factory closures in states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Nebraska. Families could lose their health insurance, college savings, even access to basic utilities. In West Virginia, one worker admitted, "I thought this job was stable. Now I feel like I'm floating with no idea if I'll ever clock in again." And here's the heartbreak. While the Made in USA label struggles abroad, Americans at home are left paying more for the same products made in their own backyard. Across the Midwest, workers now share shifts 2 or 3 days a week, spending the rest of their time at home quietly wondering if their job is next. No headlines, no formal layoff notice. But everyone feels it. Work is leaving this country ship by ship, quietly sailing westward from Vancouver into the Pacific. Staples once proudly made in the US, packaged cheese, frozen vegetables, are now being produced in Ontario and Saskatchewan. Not because American quality declined, but because Canada checked the regulatory boxes faster and more affordably. Meanwhile, US companies drown in red tape just to get an export permit. And the result, a Wisconsin food plant that once employed 300 now has only 120 workers hanging on. Even mining, once a crown jewel of American production, is shifting north. As of May 2025, the European Union now prioritizes sourcing uranium, nickel, and lithium from transparent non-deforestation suppliers. Quebec and Saskatchewan fit the bill better. For European EV battery makers, Canada isn't cheaper, it's more trustworthy. That's all that matters. What's happening here isn't just about trade, it's a shift in global trust, and America is on the losing end. Once buyers decide Canada is safer, cleaner, and more predictable, they won't look back. Not for years. And that means hundreds of thousands of American jobs, from chicken processors in Iowa, to freezer workers in Indiana, to food plant laborers in Missouri, are now in limbo. Their savings drain. Their bills pile up. While the Canadian government expands long-term export initiatives, American producers are scrambling just to keep old clients. Some are even eyeing a bitter solution, moving their factories to Canada so they can label their goods American and still get international buyers to bite. Let that sink in. Made in America might soon be made in Canada. And what's worse, American consumers will pay twice. When U.S. producers lose export revenue, they jack up prices at home just to survive. A box of lumber, a bottle of water, or a sack of beans now costs more, not because materials are scarce, but because the world isn't buying. Made in the USA once stood for unmatched quality and manufacturing pride. But if Canada keeps winning contracts, maintaining supply chains, and delivering trust while the U.S. falters under its own instability, then that iconic label could become just a nostalgic souvenir in the very country it came from. Who's taking the contracts that once belonged to America? When Canada signs a new trade deal, it might sound like just another headline, but for working-class families in the US, it signals something deeper. The kinds of contracts that used to go to America are now crossing the northern border. In just the first half of 2025, 2 major liquefied natural gas export agreements, once secured by companies in Texas and Louisiana, shifted to Canadian firms. Soon after 3 multi-million-dollar deals for organic wheat from Europe, Japan and South Korea were signed with Canadian exporters. These aren't just numbers on a page, they're wake-up calls, because for years those contracts had "Made in USA" stamped all over them. Now that stamp is fading. For decades, international buyers from Japan, Korea, Germany, and France relied on American goods, natural gas farm, produce lumber, because they trusted US quality and reliability. But things have changed. Now those same buyers are choosing Canada. Why? Because Canada is more stable, delivers on time, and doesn't get bogged down in pricing drama or regulatory delays. A Japanese trader put it bluntly, "We don't care if it's a penny cheaper or more expensive. What matters is, will it arrive on time? Will it meet quality specs? Will the rules stay the same?" Canada says yes to all 3. You don't need spreadsheets to feel what that means. Just listen to the silence along highways in Illinois, Ohio, and Michigan, once alive with the rumble of trucks carrying American goods to ports. A veteran trucker near a major Illinois route said, "2 years ago, I was doing at least 2 export runs a day. Now I'm back to local deliveries." No one's saying much, but you can hear it. When the trucks go quiet, that's when the jobs start disappearing. For drivers, missing just one night run or a week without an export order means money lost and pressure piling up. And for food packaging plants, milk processors, or beef facilities, the rhythm of trucks rolling in and out has become a signal of market health. A manager at a Pennsylvania packaging plant told us, "I can't announce it over the loudspeaker, but every time a truck leaves empty, every time the line runs for just 2 hours instead of 8, that's the alarm bell, and everyone here hears it." What makes this all harder to swallow is that the pain isn't in the numbers, it's in the sounds of silence. A cold storage dock with no trucks pulling up in the morning. A canning facility with no orders for the next month. A planning office with no new contracts to schedule. These are the mornings when workers show up only to hear, "No shift today. Come back tomorrow." And when those morning trucks stop rolling, it's not just a job being lost. It's a sign that the contract's gone to Vancouver or New Brunswick, not Omaha or Pittsburgh. The world leaving doesn't mean American goods are low quality. Far from it. The belief in American made is still strong. But what America has lost is predictability, the kind of dependability Canada now offers every single day. With each missed contract, each idle shift, and each day the phones don't ring. American workers lose something deeper than a paycheck. They lose belief in their competitiveness, in their future, in their place in the economy. And as more trucks stay parked and warehouse gates remain locked, entire working communities, from truck drivers to plant workers to warehouse managers, aren't just losing wages. They're losing their sense of direction, their ability to plan their hope. That's what turns numbers on a spreadsheet into something raw and human, a kind of quiet collapse that doesn't make the front page, but creeps in one missed delivery at a time. And all of this leads to one unavoidable question: how America's workforce is feeling the heat. One industry at a time. Can you picture a farmer in Illinois standing in the middle of his fields, corn and soybeans swaying in the breeze, but no idea if anyone's going to buy this year's harvest? That's the reality in June 2025. Long-standing export contracts for wheat, corn, and soybeans, once the pride of America's Midwest, are being rerouted to Canada. And not because the U.S. quality has declined, quite the opposite. But Canada's promise of consistency and on-time delivery is winning the trust that used to belong to us. A farmer in Nebraska whose family has worked the same land for 2 generations explained that his wheat crop, once shipped through Illinois, is now headed to buyers in Korea and Germany through Manitoba. He shook his head and said, "It's a good harvest, but the trucking cost alone wipes out any chance of paying my workers. It's not just farmers feeling the squeeze. Food processing and packaging plants in Missouri, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, places that once buzzed with 3 shifts a day, are now down to 2 or even 1 shift a week. In Missouri, a livestock feed processing plant that once employed over 150 people now runs with just 80. One operations technician told us we lost the international contracts. Japan and Europe used to order our cheese, now they're sourcing from Ontario. The dominoes keep falling. Truck drivers who once handled cross-border routes are now stuck hauling short runs between local warehouses. A driver in Michigan said every international haul I lose cost me $300. I used to clear over $5,000 a month. Now I'm barely covering gas and rent. Saving money, forget it. Freight companies in Illinois have cut driver hours by nearly half. In Ohio, packaging print shops shut down their night shifts because the export orders that used to go through New York ports are now moving out of Canada. Workers describe the silence on the factory floor as the worst part. "I used to feel proud of my role here," one packaging worker said. "Now we just wait, hoping the trucks come back. But there's no schedule, no certainty, just the word temporarily off. And then maybe never back." In the heartland, Missouri, Indiana, Pennsylvania, the domestic logistics chain is breaking down too. Cold storage hubs and container depots that used to operate at 100% capacity are now running at 40-50%. A warehouse manager in Pennsylvania shared, "We've had to cut hours, shut down half the lighting, and keep only 20 to 30 core staff. Everyone else is on standby unless a local order comes in." One worker put it bluntly, "We're not here to work. We're here just to keep our name on the list." It gets worse. In Indiana, a pasta manufacturer is tracking global contract flows in real time, watching in silence. "I'm not talking about numbers," he said. "I'm talking about 300 workers, 300 people who could lose their hours, their shifts, their health insurance. This is a whole community cracking under pressure." In West Virginia, coal towns that once boomed with pride are now holding off on everything from home repairs to college plans. "We don't know who's buying anymore," one miner said. "We're stuck in limbo, no future plans, no confidence. Even the so-called next-gen industries, carbon fiber, auto parts, defense components are feeling it." Plants once heralded as the industrial rebirth of places like Ohio, Michigan, and Georgia are now moving orders to Canada. A plant manager in Georgia revealed, "We're considering relocating our entire operation to Ontario just to keep the contracts alive." That means American-made components originally stamped Made in USA may soon come from Canadian soil. And that's the deepest cut. This isn't just theory or data. This is real life for thousands of Americans, the backbone of what was once the world's most reliable workforce. Some can no longer afford health insurance. Others are watching their kids drop out of trade school. Still more are borrowing from relatives just to get through the week. In Iowa, one worker shared, "I remember taking my kids to the water park around New Year's last year. This year, my parents don't even dare talk about going out. What hurts the most isn't losing 1-500 export contracts. It's the silence in everyday life. You don't hear it on the news, but it's everywhere. No trucks on summer mornings, no hum on the production line, no voices talking about future shifts. Just quiet. Workers show up waiting, staring at conveyor belts that might never run again. What do ordinary Americans see, and what are they losing?" As the sun sets over the industrial streets of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Missouri, it's not just the factory lights that flicker out, it's a quiet heaviness settling across entire communities. Americans aren't hearing the steady rumble of outbound trucks like they used to, but they're picking up on something far louder, the feeling that America's brand is fading and the world is moving on. Look toward Vancouver, where containers stacked high with Made in Canada glide across the Pacific. That contrast cuts deep. It's not just about goods, it's about trust. One side delivers billions of dollars in exports on time and as promised. The other sees red brake lights and empty docks. In small towns and outer suburbs, there was a time when folks were proud to say, "I've got a job that runs 3 shifts. It's enough to send my kid to college." Now some of those same men hair touched with gray are walking laps at the local gym, not to stay fit, but to keep their minds off the silence at home. The silence of uncertainty. Will there still be a contract next month? Will the paycheck cover the bills? It's not just lost wages, it's lost confidence. The kind of confidence people used to build their lives around. People aren't just scared of losing their jobs, they're scared they'll never get them back. One worker said it best. When you're getting cut 2 shifts a week, you don't think about holidays anymore. You start asking yourself, will dad still be able to see a doctor? Can my kid keep going to tutoring if we're barely making rent? These are fears that don't show up in GDP charts or market briefings. They're the missing $20 bill in your wallet, the things you don't buy anymore. The college dream you push further down the line. They're scribbled into family notebooks, every missed shift, every switch to a lower tier health plan, every canceled utility bill. But perhaps the worst loss is this, the slow erosion of faith in the economy and in yourself. Because when global buyers look across the border and pick Canada instead of the US, they aren't choosing cheaper, they're choosing steady, and that undercuts the pride generations of American workers once held the belief that keeping jobs at home meant something. Now many of those same workers watch as the jobs they fought to protect slip away quietly, transferred to a country that seems more predictable, more dependable, more trusted. The era where night shifts ran until 10 p.m. and trucks headed for international ports at dawn, that era is fading fast. What's replacing it is far quieter, shorter shifts. And sometimes nothing to do at all. That silence. It stings deeper than any unemployment rate, because numbers can be fixed. But trust, the future, that's harder to repair. And now when American workers glance at the global trade map, they see a big patch of green, the color of Canadian industry rising, and they realize something. They're not at the center of the map anymore. They're standing on the edge, watching as the light fades. So will it get worse? It might. As more big contracts head north, the number of US plants and warehouses shutting down will only grow. And when farmers, drivers, and workers can't find steady jobs, towns across America could see a second migration, young people leaving rural counties for cities, schools closing due to low enrollment, small businesses drying up for lack of customers. A poorer agricultural America, once unthinkable, could soon become reality if the country doesn't chart a course to recovery. Some fear this economic imbalance is already creating 2 Americas, one made up of people with flexible skills and enough money to move and adapt, and another left behind working-class families struggling to survive in shrinking towns. If that happens, we won't just be losing contracts, we'll be losing fairness, we'll be losing each other. Still, there's a flicker of hope. In some places, workers and towns are rallying, partnering with companies to reskill, bringing back domestic manufacturing, launching green tech training programs, and rebuilding supply chains that serve America first. But turning that spark into something bigger takes time, funding, and above all, faith. Faith that America can come back, not just on the export charts, but in the hearts and minds of its workers. And now when more containers show up stamped, Made in Canada, the real question isn't just what's America losing, but what do we still have left to fight for? Because if that answer isn't strong enough, the future won't just be uncertain. It could be colder than any winter we've seen. The next time you see a label that says Made in Canada instead of Made in the USA, ask yourself, is it just another shopping choice? Or is it a sign that America is slowly losing the position our parents and grandparents spent generations building? Because we're not just losing contracts. We're not just losing jobs or paychecks. We're losing the belief that America is still the most trusted place to make things. And if the world stops buying from us tomorrow, who's going to have the strength left to help this country get back on its feet? This video does not promote division in the United States or support any form of separatism. Everything you've just heard is meant to inform, reflect, and spark conversation based on real events. Public sentiment and current social and economic trends. We fully respect the U.S. Constitution and all federal laws.